Welcome to day 15 of 650 Bible prayers. We're going to enter Exodus today. So we're going through Exodus 1 and 2, which does prayer expressed as a groan. In chapter 1, the children of Israel are living in Egypt, the greatest power in the world at that specific time, and they were moved there by Joseph many years prior during the famine. They were given land in a fertile valley to raise cattle and sheep. So when we go into Exodus 1, we're just going to see Israel oppressed in Egypt. Then we're going to move into Exodus 2, where Jacob, who's now called Israel, and his family moved to Egypt. And after a time, the Egyptians became fearful of the rapidly growing Hebrew population, and they enslaved them and drowned the newborn males. So in that, we're going to see Moses' birth and his adoption. So in verses 1 to 5, you see that Jacob, who is now called Israel, and his sons have traveled to Egypt at the invitation of his son Joseph, who has risen to the prominence in Egypt. And they travel with themselves and their entire family. So all of his sons, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher, all of them came with all their descendants, all of Jacob's descendants, all of their offspring, who are Jacob's descendants. And in total, it was 70 of them. The Israelites had settled in the land of Goshen, separate from the Egyptians. So the 70 of them had come and settled there. We also see that they are oppressed, but the more they are oppressed, the more they are oppressed by the Egyptians, who specifically signed taskmasters to the Israelites to oppress them through forced labor. But the more they are oppressed, the more they multiplied. The more they just continue to get more powerful, more increase, more become more fruitful, regardless of the enslavement and the oppression. And that caused the Egyptians to then fear them, to not fear them, to dread them. So basically, this whole book of Exodus picks up from the story of Jacob's descendants a few hundred years later. And in all, the Israelites would be in Egypt for a total of about 430 years before returning to the promised land. Then if you go down to verse 15, the new king of Egypt, which was the new Pharaoh that had come into power, he didn't know Joseph and his family, but he wanted the Hebrew midwives to kill off all of the coming sons, but the midwives feared God and of course did not do that. So when the Pharaoh had summoned them, asking them, well, why didn't you do what I told you to do, which was kill the newborn sons? They told the midwives then told the Pharaoh that the Hebrew women were not like the Egyptian women, and in the fact that they were vigorous, and as soon as they give birth, they did all of that before the midwives even arrived. So the midwives told this information simply because they feared God and obviously didn't want to kill off the children by throwing them into the Nile, and only allowing the daughters to live. This is all still true today. The more people oppress you, the more, the more people put you down, discount you, mistreat you, any of that. When you oppressed, what God is working through, God then does a transformation in those people. So specifically, when oppressed, God literally works to transform you, or God works to prepare you to deal with the situation and the circumstances. It's important to note that the Israelites grew from the 70 that arrived in Egypt to over 600,000 when they departed from Egypt. Also testament of their multiplication under oppression.